Hello and welcome. You're watching India Global. I am Osama Shab. There is a lot lined up on the show today, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. ED finds 262 Canadian colleges linked to trafficking ring, alleging the involvement in a large-scale human trafficking network. Bangladesh inaugurates largest China-backed railway project as Dhaka opens a 170-kilometer-long Padma Bridge rail link project. China ousts two military lawmakers as Xi Jinping's purge continues. Trump's AI pick Sriram Krishnan faces MAGA backlash. This backlash is over Krishnan's comments on H-1B visas. And Indian cricketer Virat Kohli fined 20% of his match fee in the India versus Australia 4th Test in Melbourne after a shoulder barge incident with debutant Sam Constas. Well, our big story, the top story on India Global, it focuses on the Enforcement Directorate's latest inquiry, which has found links between two Maharashtra-based institutions and an unspecified number of Canadian colleges who are illegally smuggling Indian citizens across the United States and Canada border. Now, this investigation is linked to the deaths of a family of 4 Indians from Dhinguncha village in Gujarat's Gandhinagar district. It took place in January of 2022. Their bodies were found frozen in minus 35 degrees Celsius weather on the Canadian side of the border. Inquiries since then suggest that they paid human smugglers an exorbitant sum of at least rupees 55 lakh each to be illegally transported into the United States. Now, the Enforcement Directorate, it has discovered that 262 Canadian colleges, they had allegedly entered into agreements with 2 Indian entities allegedly involved in a large-scale human trafficking network. Now, while Bangladeshi Hindus have been facing a rising number of attacks in the past few months since the Yunus government came to power, it seems minorities of other faiths are also now not safe in this country. Local reports suggest at least 17 houses belonging to the Christian Tripura community in Bangladesh's Bandarban district, with unidentified miscreants setting the houses ablaze, while the victims, they were attending Christmas prayers at a nearby church on Christmas Eve. This entire region has long been home to the Tripura community in Bangladesh, but the residents, they allege that they were forcibly evicted several years ago during the Awami League regime. The community returned and rebuilt their homes following the fall of the Hasina government. However, this entire incident has raised tensions in the region and raises big questions. Who will protect Bangladesh's minorities? This comes as Yunus continues to face pressure from United States to ensure the protection of minorities. After U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he held a call with the interim government chief where he urged the Bangladesh government, saying that Bangladesh must protect minorities of all faiths. Meanwhile, we'll try and understand the repercussions. We'll try and ask these questions to our guests at this point. And I'm currently joined by Yogesh Gupta, a former diplomat. I also have with me Mohammad Kamaruzzaman, senior Bangladeshi journalist. Kamaruzzaman, to you first. I'm sure both the guests, you understand the challenges which are there in the country. There is this fear of radicalism. We are now seeing this right now, that there are attacks on the minorities, not just the minority Hindu community there, but also the other communities. Do you have any hope from the interim government in Bangladesh, and do you think they will address that?
Thank you, Osama. Thank you very much for having me. Actually, you have already mentioned in your narration that these Christian communities were evicted during the regime of Sheikh Hasina when Benazir Ahmed was the police chief, and even his garden was made there that was named Space Garden. Police garden. So they were oppressed even in the previous time. But unfortunately, this time when the Christmas Day was observing across the whole country in a very peaceful and jolly manner. At that time, those people faced a tremendous suffering due to the fire at their homes. And today, sometimes back, the chief advisor's office, press wing, issued a statement, and I have that statement here. And already, the government sent the advisor for the Chattogram Hill Tracks affair, Sudipto Chakma, there. And also, there was a case or FIR filed by a Christian, senior Christian people in Bandarban police station. And in that affair, that Christian person also alleged that some other Christian, there was the two groups actually, after their return to their original place from where they were ousted during our Awami League regime, and after that there were grouping, and that FIR recorded that one group might have the involvement in this fire. Actually, now the government is determined to conduct a very proper investigation, and after that investigation, we can understand what actually happened. But people now, whole people are expecting that this government, especially after different incidents, now the Christian communities, they are raising tensions. So these issues should be cared in a very professional and mindful manner by the government, and of course, a proper and in-depth and professional, unbiased investigation should be conducted here after this incident of fire.
Okay, we'll have to wait and watch whether an unbiased
Osama.
investigation takes place or not. But Yogesh Gupta, this entire situation there, especially the treatment of the minority Hindus and now the minority Christian community there is a lot of pressure from across the board on the interim government. The question is, how will Yunus government protect the minorities?
Well, so far, unfortunately, the record of the Yunus government in protecting the minorities in Bangladesh has been dismal. The kind of activities that he's supporting, the role of the Muslim League students wing, the Jamaat Islami students wing, and other political parties which are currently active there, is clearly giving the signal that his regime is supporting the hardline Islamist and fundamentalist forces. Yunus activities himself, when he goes abroad, he's meeting, people from these countries recently. And while, of course, the United States will not support any violence against the Christians, but the kind of activities that his regime, has been supporting, and the way some of these organizations are conducting themselves, particularly the Chhatra Samiti and others, is giving encouragement to these groups. And India, of course, is very concerned. I mean, these are people with strong ties to us. And we are waiting for the change of regime in the United States. And otherwise, at some point, we will have to take some sort of reciprocal measures, because that's the only language these people understand.
All right, Kamru Zama, there is a growing pressure on the interim government. And like Mr. Gupta there also mentioned, the US has voiced its concern. India has repeatedly spoken about protecting the minorities there. How will Yunus respond to the growing global pressure is the question.
Yes, thank you very much for this good question. Actually, Dr. Yunus has already several times stated and assured that it is the responsibility of this interim government, that is the outcome of a massive upsurge, and people expectation is to establish rule of law, justice everywhere. So the people's expectation to Dr. Yunus is very high. That's why Yunus has already assured several times. Actually, the problem is that just after the coming to power, Dr. Yunus as an interim government, the expectation of the whole world has also increased because he is a very global figure. And if you know that during the regime of Sheikh Hasina, in the 15 years regime, there were dozens of incidents of attacks, killings, on minority Hindu communities, even hundreds of Hindus' houses were captured by the Awami Leaguers. So at that time, actually, the response of the even global community was not so high. Even people were not aware of that. And local media even at that time didn't able to report freely. So now the global audience came to know about any incident regarding here. So the pressure is high. And
But
we
Kamru
expect
Zama, the
that as
question,
a people of
Kamru Zama, the point is, will these assurances that the Yunus government has been making, will it actually turn into actions? And that is something that we'll have to wait and watch. Gentlemen, stay with us because another crucial story. Yes, we'll come.
Just look.
Yes, absolutely. We'll come to you. Another crucial story that we are tracking at the moment from Bangladesh. Dhaka has inaugurated one of its most significant projects under the China proposed Belt and Road Initiative, Bangladesh's largest railway, Padma Bridge Rail Link project. The railway, known locally as the Dream Road, it stretches approximately 170 kilometers and was built by the China Railway Group Limited and funded by the Export-Import Bank of China. Following its opening, travel time between the capital Dhaka and the southwestern city of Jashore will be reduced from the original 10 hours to just 3 hours. Now, while the rail link began construction in the July of 2018 under the Hasina regime, its inauguration under the Yunus government, it highlights Beijing's strong ties with Dhaka, while ties with New Delhi, that remains strained. And I still have with me Kamru Zama, senior journalist, and Yogesh Gupta, former diplomat there. Yogesh Gupta, just, what are the strategic implications that we are looking at here, especially with this project and its reference to India, given its geographical proximity to Bangladesh?
China has been trying to expand its cooperation with the Bangladesh for quite some time, and this was one of the projects funded by China, its Export-Import Bank, and certainly these Chinese intention always has been to reduce India's role and influence in Bangladesh. And these projects are aimed at reducing India's influence and expanding China's own influence in that region. Uh, Besides the connectivity projects, China has also been supporting, certain defense-related projects, certain military-related projects in Bangladesh. So its intention always has been to build up its own ties and to reduce and weaken Bangladesh's, influence with India, its relationship with India. So we will have to see how this project impacts our Bangladesh's ties with India, how it impacts our strategic interest, and what sort of measures we need to take, to safeguard our interests.
Right, Kamru Zama, India and China, they have not really been on the same page for some time. It's only very recently that after the delimitation exercise in Depchong and Depsang, that India and China have started and initiated a dialogue. Are there any concerns that this project might exacerbate existing tensions between India and Bangladesh?
Actually, thank you. Actually, Bangladesh is always interested to make relationship both China and India because you know that Bangladesh has huge business with India as well as with China. And even according to a report that I had some days back during the regime of Sheikh Hasina, nearly 1 million Chinese citizens are working here in Bangladesh. Some formal and some informal, and there are hundreds of projects here. So China is very serious or very desperate to expand their presence here. And after the fall of Sheikh Hasina, who is considered to be the strongest ally of India, now China is more desperate to expedite its presence here. and it's of course may rise tension in India. So now people are expecting that both China and India consider Bangladesh as friendly nation, and Bangladesh is also interested to do business or other development work on partnership basis, both with China and India. So in that case, more dialogue may be held between Bangladesh and India. India is the closest neighbor and the huge border. So the prospect of business between Bangladesh and India is also huge. But in that case, what is the tension here in Bangladesh is that India is always partial to Sheikh Hasina. So this mentality must be changed by India. And in that case, people-to-people relationship in terms of business, culture, and other arenas, it will be boosted. And in that case, of course, the presence of China will not be a matter of tension for both Bangladesh and India.
Right, Mr. Gupta, very quickly, your response to what Kamruzama has said, and also, are there any concerns about China's increasing economic and strategic footprint in this region? And how do you think it might, impact the regional stability there?
Well, we are not against, improvement of Bangladesh's relations with China. I mean, certainly not. China, Bangladesh is welcome to have economic ties with all neighbors, all countries. But in the past, what has been noteworthy is that the kind of projects that China has been taking up, those have generally some serious strategic implications, and so we will have to see whether this new railway bridge and this new railway line that they have inaugurated, what kind of implications it has for relations with India, for India's strategic interests, and then take suitable measures, to safeguard those interests.
All right, Mr. Gupta and Kamruzama, thank you very much for speaking to NDTV and sharing your views there. Time for a very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Welcome back. Before the break, we were speaking about the Enforcement Directorate's latest inquiry, which has found links between two Maharashtra-based institutions and an unspecified number of Canadian colleges who are illegally smuggling Indian citizens across the United States-Canada border. This investigation, it is in fact linked to the deaths of a family of 4 Indians from a village in Gujarat's Gandhinagar district. This took place in 2022. In fact, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali joins us to get us more on this. Ghazali, just break it down for us. What is this entire controversy?
See, as you rightly mentioned, this was a Gujarat family belonging from Gujarat, which was illegally crossing. Back in 2022, the family was entering into US from Canada, and due to intense temperature, intense cold, they died there. After 2022, the investigation was carried out by the Ahmedabad crime branch. Then ED also got involved into it because of the trail of money which was associated with the case. And that is when they found out that there are agents, the ones who are running the education consultancies, travel consultancies back in Gujarat, are in touch with certain colleges in Canada, which promise them admission, and on those documents people travel from India to Canada, and then the same agents try to sort of illegally enter into US through illegal routes, as what we call the donkey route here. So in the investigation, it has been found that around 260 colleges in Canada, which are located, most of them located near the US-Canada border, are under a scanner for facilitating this kind of illegal travel. So this entire trail, people getting a student visa or enter into Canada on a student visa and then try to enter into US through illegal route, is facilitated here by travel or educational agents, and who are in collaboration with the colleges or the college administration in Canada. So the entire chain and trail is under a scanner, and that is why 260 colleges in Canada are under a scanner, who are in touch with the agents here back in India who are involved in this entire racket.
All right, Mohammad Ghazali, thank you very much for getting us all the latest as far as this entire controversy is concerned. Meanwhile, China abruptly ousted 2 military lawmakers from its national parliament without explanation as a purge of key personnel in the upper levels of the nation's defense establishment. It shows no sign of easing. The country's top legislative body revoked the membership of 2 of their members in a meeting, according to the National People's Congress Standing Committee. You was one of the person who was once a deputy commander of the People's Liberation Army Ground Force, while Lee, he was the Navy commander of the Southern Theater Command, which oversees the South China Sea region that has been fraught with territorial tensions. Now, Xi, China's most powerful leader since Mao Zedong, has been intensifying his grip on the military. And these moves highlight that his purge continues in his bid to control corruption in his government. In a surprising Christmas Day revelation, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has suggested hockey legend Wayne Gretzky should run for Prime Minister of Canada, joking that he could easily win without even campaigning. Trump shared the conversation on Truth Social, saying he told Gretzky, "You could become the governor of Canada, soon to be the 51st state." It's a nod to his frequent jokes about expanding the United States, but despite Trump's encouragement, Gretzky, who is a dual US-Canadian citizen, he wasn't interested in entering politics. However, Trump thinks Canadians should start a draft Wayne Gretzky movement. This playful suggestion comes as Ottawa's political future hangs in the balance. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's grip on power is shaky, with a potential no-confidence vote looming in January. Now, and as Canada faces an uncertain future, Trump continues to push bold policies, including proposed tariffs on Canadian imports. The stage may soon be set for a new political era north of the border. Could Wayne Gretzky, or the quote-unquote, the Great One, become Canada's next political star? Well, only time will tell. And as Washington braces for a historic presidential transition, one thing is clear. Corporate America is making its move. Just weeks after endorsing Kamala Harris in the election, big business is now shifting its allegiance to President-elect Donald Trump. Wall Street tech giants and auto manufacturers, they are opening their wallets to Trump's inaugural committee, with donations already surpassing $150 million, exceeding expectations and threatening to break the record that was set in 2017. From Amazon's Jeff Bezos and Meta's Mark Zuckerberg to hedge fund magnate Ken Griffin, names that once opposed Trump's agenda are now eager to cozy up. All are pledging $1 million or more, hoping to secure influence over the incoming administration. For these business leaders, the stakes are high, as Trump has promised to revamp economic policies that could favor select industries. His inaugural committee has become a crucial doorway to power. As the inauguration approaches, one thing is certain: the lines between business and politics are blurring more than ever. Time now for a very short break. More on the other side. Welcome back. The Azerbaijani government has the sources have reportedly suggested Russia's involvement in the entire crash of that plane. Azerbaijani government sources have confirmed to Western media outlets that a Russian surface-to-air missile caused the Azerbaijan Airlines plane crash in Aktau on Wednesday. Now, media reports indicate that the missile was fired at flight 8432 during a drone air activity above Grozny, and the shrapnel, it hit the passengers and cabin crew as it exploded next to the aircraft mid-flight. It is also being reported that the damaged aircraft was not allowed to land at any Russian airports, despite the pilot's requests for an emergency landing, and it was ordered to fly across the Caspian Sea towards Aktau in Kazakhstan. According to data, the plane's GPS navigation systems, they were jammed throughout the flight path above the sea. In fact, I'm currently joined by my colleague Mohammad Ghazali to get the latest as far as this entire controversy is concerned. Ghazali, just explain it to us. What are the sources from the Azerbaijani government saying with respect to Russia's involvement in this entire tragedy that took place yesterday?
See, since the report emerged yesterday that this plane has crash landed, there were aviation experts from Russia itself and multiple other sources hinting that perhaps the impact which was shown on the plane's fuselage doesn't look like it's a bird hit. And there are reports that aviation experts perhaps initially they called out that this looks like that a Russian anti-aircraft missile has struck it, because it was also passing through a region which is heavily manned by drones from both sides, both from Russia and Ukraine, and perhaps Russia mistook it as an aircraft from Ukrainian side, and that is why it has been hit. Now this has come initially from the aviation experts, but Western media is also reporting that now even the Azerbaijani government sources are also confirming it, that perhaps it may not be the impact of bird hit that the plane crash landed, but it was attacked by an anti-missile from a missile towards this aircraft, and that is why it crash landed, and then later we saw scores of people dead in this attack.
All right, Ghazali, stay with us because before we get into the latest allegations and talk more about it, my colleague Arjun Samar Mahindran, he brings you the story so far.
Azerbaijan has declared December 26th as a day of national mourning. The decision has been taken after Wednesday's plane crash off the Caspian Sea coast that killed at least 30 people on board. Here's all you need to know about the crash, the multiple investigations and controversies surrounding it. Azerbaijan Airlines flight J28243 was en route from capital Baku to Grozny. It's the capital of South Russia's Chechnya region. However, it crashed about 3 kilometers or 1.8 miles from the Kazakhstan's Aktau city on the other side of the eastern shore of the Caspian Sea. 62 passengers and 5 crew members were on board the Embraer 190 aircraft. According to Kazakh officials, 42 Azerbaijani citizens, 16 Russian citizens, 6 Kazakh citizens and 3 Kyrgyz citizens were on board. Miraculously, 32 people, including 2 children, survived the crash and were subsequently hospitalized. Now, the plane was diverted to Akatu as Makachkala, the nearest Russian airport, was closed due to drone activity. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev has said that the worsening weather conditions forced the plane to change its course, after which it began heading towards Aktau Airport, where the crash occurred during landing. He has also cautioned against speculation. According to Russia's aviation watchdog, the crash was reportedly due to an emergency situation on board after a bird strike following the diversion. However, an online post by Flight Radar 24 underlines that strong GPS jamming in the region may have further complicated navigation and contributed to the crash. It is something which has been linked to the past incidents as well. Now, the Kazakh, Azerbaijani and Russian authorities are all separately investigating the crash. Azerbaijan has in fact launched a criminal case and has assured its citizens of regular probe updates. On the other hand of the Caspian Sea, Kazakhstan has formed a government commission to examine the cause of the disaster. Not only this, Brazilian aircraft manufacturer Embraer has also expressed its willingness to assist with the ongoing inquiries.
All right, my colleague Mohammad Ghazali is still there with us. Ghazali, how serious are these allegations that have been made against Russia, and has there been a response from Russia so far?
See, once these hypotheses came yesterday, before any confirmation or official confirmation, but only the aviation experts were hinting at it, the Kremlin responded saying that we should not speculate about the reason behind this tragedy. But as of now, after the Azerbaijani government sources have been quoted by foreign media, there has been no response from Kremlin, but it is expected that they will maintain the same line that perhaps it was a tragedy or an accident and not a hit by any kind of air defense system. But you know, the kind of exchange between Russia and Ukraine, or the situation, the way it has developed in the last 1 week, multiple missile attack from Russia into Ukrainian territory, Ukraine also attacking through drones in the city of Kazan and other. It seems that before a ceasefire or even a peace talk can initiate after Trump comes to office, both sides want to inflict maximum damage on their adversaries, and that is exactly what is happening. Not in particular hinting towards this tragedy, because we still don't have a kind of on-record confirmation either from Russia, Kazakhstan, or any other parties involved in it, or civilians from different countries were killed in this attack. So we don't have official confirmation from those government or even from Azerbaijan Airlines which crashed. So we will have to wait for an official on-record confirmation from either of the government. But yes, some of the media networks are reporting that it is Azerbaijani government sources which have hinted that perhaps this was an attack by air defense system, because the impact also on the fuselage doesn't show or doesn't suggest that it was a bird hit, but perhaps it may have been some air defense system which tracked it and then sort of attacked it.
All right, we'll have to wait and watch how things develop as far as this entire situation is concerned. Mohammad Ghazali, thank you very much for speaking to us. Meanwhile, listen in to what the Kremlin had to say earlier.
Как в Кремле относятся к сообщениям о том, что самолет был обстрелян?
Идет следствие. Любой авиационный инцидент должен быть расследован специализированными авиационными властями. И до выводов следствия выстраивать какие-то гипотезы было бы неверным. И мы, конечно же, этого делать не можем, и никто не должен этого делать. Нужно дождаться окончания этого следствия.
All right, Trump's AI policy advisor pick Sriram Krishnan, he has ignited a fierce debate that pits Silicon Valley's tech titans against the populist MAGA or Make America Great Again movement. Sriram Krishnan is facing backlash for his comments involving removing country caps of H-1B visas and the growing tension over the future of U.S. immigration policy and the role of foreign talents, particularly from countries like India in Washington's tech future. Conservative commentator Laura Loomer has been vocal in her disapproval of Krishnan's appointment, accusing him of betraying the America First agenda by advocating for immigration reforms that she claims would undermine American workers. However, numerous key faces such as incoming White House AI and crypto czar David Sachs, Elon Musk and Indian-American Congressman Ro Khanna, they have backed Sriram and his comments. David Sachs also noted that many MAGA critiques have confused the Trump pick for another person sharing the same name there. How is this going to develop over the course of months, and how will the removal of countries H-1B cap impact India? How will it affect the United States? We'll try and get the answers to those questions. I'm currently joined by Professor Andrew Latham, Professor of Political Science. I also have Varun Singh, immigration expert. Professor Latham, to you first. How do you see this backlash that Trump is facing over his pick, Mr. Sriram? Do you think he will rethink his decision of appointing him in that position?
No, I don't. I mean, I think the reaction on the part of the MAGA crowd was perfectly predictable. Their view, of course, as you just articulated, is that, or implied at least, that if H-1B visa process, which allows American employers to hire foreign nationals, is expanded, and if the green card which is the first step on the road to immigration to the United States, is accelerated, this is going to result in a huge influx of workers, especially from India in the high-tech and AI sectors. And that, according to the far-right MAGA crowd, is going to displace American workers, hence the claim that this works against America first. My view is that they're completely wrong about this, but that nevertheless is the party line, as it were, coming out of the Laura Loomer, MAGA far-right influencer crowd.
Okay. Varun Singh, the question is, how will the removal of country H-1B cap impact India here? Just break it down for us.
Yeah, so Shab, this is very interesting. You know that 75% of Indians only have the dominance on the H-1B cap. And if this is, the recent change was also introduced where the H-4 and the spouse and the dependents and the families will also get an extension. And till date, it was for 6 months. And the new Trump era, it will be for next 1.5 years. So this is also a big movement, and this is a big change because of the lengthy process and delayed outcomes. There were a lot of stress, and a lot of relief will come in terms of financial stability and security for the families who are living there. And this is the impact for reforming the green card and the entire process, where there's a huge backlogs in terms of numbers, and especially the Indians community, they contribute the 70-80% of the resources there. So this is going to change, and that's why there are some changes in the Home Office and Homeland. And what we saw today is actually it's for making the more process more refined, and AI is the part of the generation. And I think implementing technology in the green card process, this is going to be a very good time for all of us in terms of the families who are struggling for a gray area in terms of waiting and the delayed backlogs and the dependents families. You can't imagine the families who go, there are more than 8 lakhs families, and 70-80% of the families, they are all dependent on the backlogs of the visa. So this is going to be a big reform and big change. And having a good advisory, I don't think Trump's administration will have any issues on selecting a good advisory in terms of caste or color. It's all based on the skill sets and the knowledge. So I think we have to take it very positively on a positive note.
Okay, Professor Latham, the President-elect Donald Trump and the Indian Prime Minister Modi, both they have enjoyed cordial relations over the years, and in turn, India and US have managed to strengthen ties. Will Trump-Modi bonhomie keep the visa curves at bay? That is the question.
Well, I think you've hit on something important here, which is that in terms of geopolitics, the United States really wants India in its camp as much as possible. So that's part of the equation here. But there's something bigger, which is I think Trump and David Sachs and Elon Musk, all like me, immigrants to this country, really think that reforming the mechanisms through which America can attract the best talent from around the world is going to help ensure that the United States will be at the cutting edge, the leader of AI technology. And again, geopolitics raises its ugly head because China's in the mix as well. And here's the thing, is that a great many of the leading innovators in the AI sector come from India. And so for Donald Trump and his advisors, David Sachs and Elon Musk and others, opening those doors as wide as possible has both geopolitical consequences, but also economic consequences in terms of maintaining America's lead in the AI world. And then I think a distant third is, because I don't think Donald Trump cares much about the humane and humanitarian dimension, but as my fellow guest just pointed out, this is going to have a real impact on real human lives, and not just the immigrants, but the families of. So I think the bloviating on the part of the MAGA crowd is predictable, but it is entirely misplaced. Hiring these people and pursuing the policies that they're advocating is going to ensure American leadership in the most important industry in the world right now, I think, which is the AI industry. And that's good.
Right.
That's good for America. That's about making America great again, if I can be ironic.
Absolutely. And Varun, Professor Latham spoke about the geopolitical consequences and the impact that it might have. But I also want to understand Trump's relationship with his base, that is the AI and the tech industry. How do you think it might, this entire controversy impact Trump's relationship with his base and especially the tech industry there?
See, sir, the tech industry, you know that all the Indians take resource, and that is the main hub for the Indians as the Silicon Valley. And the technology is the backbone for any growth, if you see. And in terms of leadership, I believe without giving the importance of AI, this is not going to reduce. Absolutely, Professor Latham, what he's saying is absolutely correct, 100 out of 100 in terms of the geopolitics and the outcome. So this policy will make a reform in terms of the end user. The end user is basically the large number of volumes. So if you see the technology and the home and the bridge between the connectivity in terms of India and US and how we bridge the gap of technology and infusing AI in the entire visa process, this will reduce a huge cost, employer side also, and the other side as well, even for the family side. And I believe this is a need of the hour. And handling such a huge data and highly secured and very important data, this has to be dealt with the technology infusement, which is a very important part. And that's why there's a advisory policies, and that's why this is the discussion going on, because this is what it's required to make the change and make America great again. So this is the movement. So this is a part of the movement, I believe. And I think the picture, as I told you, it looks very promising. And we as an immigration consultant, we see the backlogs. It's not about India. You see the global backlogs. It has to have a superhuman infusion in terms of handling such a volumes with the integrity and with the error-free process. So this is how I believe that having a right leadership with the right skill sets will resolve a lot of unknown challenges. And that's why this is a very great movement.
Right,
according to me.
Professor Latham, many also pointing out to the risk factor with respect to this entire situation. I want to understand from you very quickly what potential geopolitical risks or opportunities might arise from increasing the number of H-1B visas that are being issued to Indian professionals especially.
I think, to be very precise and concise, I think it simply cements that relationship. The Indian diaspora in the United States is the wealthiest demographic in the entire country. They're wealthier than the people who came over on the Mayflower. They've historically voted Democrat, but that's changing. That's changing, and I think this is going to perhaps accelerate or amplify that change. So there's a couple of things. One is domestic politics, and the other is geopolitics. And anything that can be done to cement the American relationship with India in the context of this global struggle with China, I think is a good thing. So it's a win-win-win situation.
All right, it is a win-win situation for both the countries. Gentlemen, thank you very much for speaking to NDTV and sharing your views. Time now for a very short break. More on the other side. Welcome back. South Korea's main opposition party submitted a motion to impeach the country's acting leader over his reluctance to fill 3 constitutional court vacancies ahead of the court's review of rebellion charges against impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol, stemming from his short-lived martial law decrees on December the 3rd. The court appointments have stalled amid an intensifying dispute between the liberal opposition and Yoon's conservative party and the potential impeachment of Prime Minister Han Duck-soo may deepen the political paralysis that has halted high-level diplomacy and rattled financial markets there. Survivors and victims' relatives will this week mark the 20th anniversary of the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami, which killed more than 220,000 people across more than a dozen countries. A 9.1 magnitude earthquake off the western coast of Indonesia's Sumatra Island triggered huge waves that swept into coastal areas of Indonesia, Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, and 9 other nations around the Indian Ocean basin. The tsunami was triggered by the longest fault line rupture from an earthquake ever observed seconds before 7:59 a.m. on the 26th of December in 2004. It created waves more than 30 meters high, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs and causing widespread destruction, killing a total of 226,000 people. Listen in to what one of the relatives of the victims had to say.
Bahwa peserta didik yang bersekolah di SMA 1 Longa adalah kelahiran di atas 2004. Nah, sehingga kami di samping kita ingin memberikan edukasi terkait dengan sejarah tsunami kepada peserta didik yang lahir di atas 2004, kami tidak ingin mereka tuh lupa akan sejarah itu, bahwa pernah terjadi suatu tragedi yang mungkin bagi sebagian orang kelam dan sebagainya. Namun hari ini bagi generasi muda juga mereka harus tahu apa sih harus mereka lakukan pasca tsunami dan sebagainya.
That's all we have for you. Keep watching India Global.